Let me get a roll call. Who has been experiencing similar dreams? Who has been experiencing what many are calling mall world? Mall world is an extensive astral realm dream that by the hundreds of thousands, I would probably say at least millions, people, because of social media, are able to see not just similarities, but are able to map out this entire reality in the astral realm, which you would call the dream state realm. For many, many years, on and off, I've been familiar with this small world. I didn't know it by this term, but because of this term, it became like key code for me so that I can, be able to speak to you in this way and have more clarity in ways that I know now that there are people who can confirm alongside with me. So again, roll call. So what is this mall world? Well, I know that if you go on and I just did it just now, today, prior to making this video, just so I can read, and it just confirmed what I already knew. And again, there are many of us out there. What is that? Mall world is a place that's been coined that has an entire civilization. Similar to that to stores in the mall, similar to that to corridors that lead to actual institutions, buildings, learning places where you actually learn from, such as alongside with peers, cohorts, ascended masters per se. Places where family and friends actually connect in rooms. Long corridors that lead you to these endless bathrooms, needing to go to the bathroom as an example, and seeing these half-closed doors, and it's dirty, and it's like a place of like filth. And these bathroom corridors inside this long hallway seems endless. And you come out of the bathroom, depending on which corridor you come out, whether it's from this side or that side, on your left or on your right, depending on which way you come out, you'll see this large window. And outside the window, it's like a shorefront with this ocean. And maybe you need to see yourself outside, but you want to use the bathroom first. So you start walking through the corridors, but all of the bathroom corridors are filthy. Then you find yourself in another dream on a different day, connecting with family and friends alike. Many benevolent beings or malevolent beings. And you start communicating and connecting there. There are corridors that lead you to gardens. There are corridors that lead you even below, such as the subway. And these fragmented dreams, when put together, construct an entire circuitry map in the astral realm that is no longer a conspiracy theory. Enough of us are now gathering together in the physical so that we can put the pieces together, but most commonly to confirm the pieces that you already work with. I'm here to say that this actual construct, which is very, very, very physical in the astral realm, meaning very real, just as real as physical is here in the physical realm. I'm very aware and I'm well versed in this reality. I choose when to enter and when to leave by way of flying, by way of sometimes floating and walking. For me, it's flying. What is it for you? The reason why I say flying is because these are remnants of who we've always been, such as the way I've traveled. I've actually had a crystalline body. You would say an avatar in the higher realm, right? You would say Christ conscious 12D avatar or above holographic vessel that is crystalline, meaning that the carbon has already transmuted into, think of a diamond, right? Carbon to a diamond, right? 666, the mark of the beast. The beast is this vessel. The beast is the actual code, or 666, 6 carbon, 6 atom, 666 would be 6 what? Protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, or something like that. If I got it wrong, just let me know. And that's actually us ascending from the emissions, right? Just like a car has emissions. Well, each physical human and our vehicle, we emit, right? We emit intent, but we also emit carbon dioxide. So in order for us to experience the physical matter in this reality, in this dream state that we call physical, then we require, right? We require certain ethers of connection, which allows us to work with the principles and the laws that allow us to govern this experience, which is why we're limited to this experience per se, one may argue. Because just like a fruit ripens and becomes abundant, it has a short life of that of a fruit of a tree, right? As I said in past videos at least a year ago. Well, we're experiencing that to the ripening of humanity. And in order for us to complete that experience, we have to live and die. We have to actually complete an entire cycle. And yet we are the fruit bearing the fruit of life. Or the tree of life, excuse me, the fruit of life. Yeah, the fruit of life. And the tree of life, right, allows us to reflect along with the tree of knowledge. It's the reflection of the tree of life of our primal connection in both spirit and in flesh in order for us to be able to experience our individuality. However, distortions and insidious nature, natural viruses that come in human form, reptilian form, draconian form, and other higher entity demonic forms, such as archons, I would coin, that came here to malevolently distort our experience, hence entrapping many of us in the experiment. For those who are esoteric and working with inner alchemy, and you came here to change the blueprinting, well, you see them both as neither good or bad. What I just said, experiment and experience, you actually use that to change the complexities of what has been distorting this physical reality. So that astral realm reality is the meta-conscious. It's our consciousness right now as we're experiencing, as you're watching this video, right? And you're finally falling into the dream state realm, right? You go into this, the subconscious realm, right? The theta, if I'm not mistaken, right? And once you're in theta, that's a frequency that now you find your body in almost like a paralysis where you don't even feel an itch when you're asleep, right? Think about that. You don't always wake up in the middle of the night saying, oh, I have an itch, or I have to like get this bug out of my arm because it's like tickling me. As an example, once you find yourself in that REM state of sleep, your vessel is no longer attached to the physical nervous system, somatic system, the same, and allowing you to go into higher states of frequencies. So that's the subconscious. And when you go via the subconscious, which is the portal of your actual minds, you already have this. This is already the way you're equipped. It's just that most of us have been conditioned to serve something and to plug into another serving system, to serve something outside of us. And once you realize that everything is within us, then you plug back into your own serving system, your server, right? And they tricked us with English to say server, to serve is to show gratitude. And that's a way of eliminating your power, and you can't really eliminate your power. What you do is you actually transform it and transmute it into circuitry of technology that has no shape of physical form. And the outlet connection between that and what I just said, of how other beings actually siphon our lower frequency energy, such as fear, fright, right? Uncertainty with like freaking out with life, finances, heartbreaks, everything. They feed off of that. It's a necessary thing. It's just how they feed off of that, because they no longer have their heart chakra. Right? And because of that, they are working with, imagine being in your higher mind with no heart, right? So they require our heart. They require us to suffer. They require us to forget and not remember how to refine our emotional power, right? Which is the chemistry and the alchemy of how emotions help to self-regulate and keeping us in homeostasis. That's in its most fundamental form. But in the higher forms, this is how you actually start to amplify and expand, or you start to contract and you start to alter. No different than if you're a boxer in training and you're not doing it just to fight to hurt someone, but you're trying to understand the art of it, like in martial arts. You're trying to understand the art of working with someone and somebody's energy when they're when they're vicious and trying to hurt you, and you're trying to return that back to you in self-defense. And you do it in a setting where you're educating yourself and others the same. That's why they call it martial arts school in the sense, right? But in the higher levels of martial arts, you already know, for most of you, you use this as a platform to realize violence, to master violence, because this is when you understand peace and choice of not being violent. Those who know no violence, who choose non-violence, it's like they're the ones who are actually handicapped. And I'm not saying someone who's ancient and knows violence from past lives. I'm saying someone who just never experienced it in this life, or maybe they did in past lives, but they don't have a recollection, so they have a disconnect. Again, it's like walking handicapped. See, to choose peace is because you're capable of both violence and the opposite or the contrast of that. That's why we're here, to master the different energy patterns. As soon as you give attention to what I just said, of course you start putting attention to violence. Of course you're going to attract lessons and stuff like that, right? Especially if you're not well versed in that, right? So this was one of my journeys to remember in this life path, because my violent nature of past lives, right? Of helping to protect others, because I was living in my lower mind, I was being patriotic, right? Patriotic, excuse me. And patriotism involves violence, unfortunately, when you're seeing things valiantly in that realm. And once you start graduating from that, you become an elder per se, like in the physical way. You become grandpa, grandma, and you see how your grandkids are doing it, and you can't force them out of joining the military, as an example. And you're like, you wish they could do something else, but you're saying, well, with wisdom, they have to see it their way. And hopefully that I re-encoded my wisdom into them because I lived it. And maybe they're going to repeat that pattern, that cycle, because they're working on something. And maybe they won't listen to me because they're hard-headed like I was when I was a kid, you know. So they have the wisdom to allow them to live their life so that they can level up while they went into the path of violence via patriarchy, right? And there's violence in the matriarchy, but that her story has been cut off. But many of you are now tapping into those sources because you're able, capable. You don't need to go into scripture or books. If you know how to tap into the quantum realm, again, I'm speaking to people who know, I'm speaking to people who are aware of my world and are hearing me and are having a lot of synchronicities. So I'm speaking to a special group of people, not the consensus or the mass. They're not going to relate. They're going to think I'm crazy, and I giggle, like Santa Claus. Ha, 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 silly kids. Right, that's an elder Santa Claus. Ooh, no. And to choose to be youthful, to choose to bring back to youth, and to choose to want to, let's say, be in this particular good-looking body, right? I'm keeping my hair like that and like this, and using my meditation, and using my meditation key and networking nervous system endings to work, because it's very challenging to be in the physical realm, right? I'm choosing my avatar. I became more conscious of this, right? And in the subconscious, unconscious realm, before we were born, we actually started to create things, but because of free will and uncertainty, everything starts shaping and morphing. Just like I've trained to swim in the sea my entire life, and I swim there, I can still almost drown, even though I'm a master at swimming, right? And I freak out, and then this is where the test becomes, the test that you've been taking to train becomes the actual test of will and of physical experience. And it can only be experienced in the physical realm that way. That's why many of us choose to be human, because there are only things that you can experience to see what you already know and how you can actually reflect off of that within the realms of your higher self. Your higher self is the 4D and above, which brings me back to what I was mentioning. My world was, I would say, created by 3-letter abbreviated agencies here in the physical realm that's supposed to, or allegedly supposed to protect us. I'm not going to mention them. And you could do the math, you could do the research, and you'll find out it's not very hard, extensive research. And you're the one who needs to discern what makes sense for you. I could care less who believes me or not. This is not for this. The intention of this message is always to, for myself the same, but to also assist, because we need to speak. The elders need to start speaking, because people like me, people like you, right? People like us, we are now able to reflect more of these fragmented experiences, and this is how we can connect with community. And we don't necessarily have to always create a community. It could be just like this one video per se, and now it becomes now not just ingrained, but it starts to resequence our DNA conditioning and network within the realms of the central nervous system and the somatic nervous system, which is what is betraying you. See, if you've already been experiencing humiliation rituals, betrayal, narcissism, as an example. This was a collective upheaval for people like us that was born here to bring up to the surface what's been actually running this world. Sickness, distortion. So now nothing can't be hidden anymore. So everything's coming to the surface. So we, as a vessel per se, we're bringing it up within our minds because we were chosen. See, they prayed for us to be born here, family members, and the conscious ones that are here are not conscious of that. So they're going to be tested with their faith, their belief, their religion, their political agenda, and yada yada yada. Religious, educational affairs, right? Or you didn't go to college, or you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't be doing this. You should be a doctor. You should be this and that and this and that. And the whole point is to collapse their reality with our not only capability but our remembrance as children. So as a child, as an example, I remembered at 3.5 years old that I could fly. Now, this is the harsh part. Thank goodness I didn't do this. But at 3.5 years old, I remember being on the top of stairs. And this is very clear to me. I'll never forget. I was between 3 and 4. And I knew, just like Superman, that I knew that if I jumped off of the top of the stairs, that somehow I would fly. I didn't feel crazy. It felt real. And energy started to raise up to me, and I was telling myself, I need to do this. I need to jump. It was not suicide. 3-year-old suicidal. And I dared myself because I said, holy moly. And I started to play stout because if I did jump, I knew that I was going to hurt myself. So I was aware that I would injure myself. I was also aware that I can kill myself. So I was already seeing that. And that's what stopped me from jumping. In a way, that was good. But ultimately, what stopped me was my mom calling me. She didn't know I was in the hallway, and she was inside the apartment on the 2nd floor. And she called me by my nickname. And I'm not gonna mention it. It's silly. It's cute and silly. You don't need to know it. And when she called me, it snapped me out of it. And I until today, I always have like doubts and regret in a sense. Not today, but the last couple of years where I wish I would have jumped. But at the same time, I'm glad I didn't, because I know I probably would have fallen and hurt myself. Right? It depends how you want to see it. So I didn't jump. So she did save me by calling me, because it wasn't my time to fly. Because again, I was still pure with my remembrance, and my mind couldn't collect the data of remembrance. You see, from 0 to 3 years old, it was from past inner lives, right? The inverted life of who you've always been before you became a human being. And unfortunately, modern day religious distort texts and scripture to teach you. It's always the humans. It's always the pastor, the priest per se, that are males most of the time. Teach you to make sure that you don't dig in for yourself and start to unravel and deep deeper with your inner wisdom and finding your own inner truth, because your inner truth only matters to you. As soon as you start to speak your inner truth, other people are going to already start to attempt to humiliate you, are going to start to condemn you, all right? They'll throw rocks at you. That's normal. That's part of the initiation, because you didn't come here to be liked. You didn't come here to actually create a community of people who were going to like you. No, because if you did that with your gifts, if you did that, then you would have just added more links and chains to the entrapment of our ancestors. They were versions of us. They were experiences that we can always tap in via the Akashic record. So, again, as I said, that I'm very familiar and articulated in my experiences in flying in my astral realm. And I know many of you have been always, and some are awakening to it. It's because we have the ability to do so in the physical. We have the ability to naturally levitate and other beautiful gifts that are supposed to be remembered and anchored back into the physical. And because we've been virtually hardwired, because there's no hardwiring in our system, in our mental thoughts, but there's like a hardwiring of belief systems that are so powerful that you believe that you need to come and be saved, right? It's so hard that most of you will throw a rock at me or say that I'm crazy or that I'm being blasphemous, right? And this is all conditioning that was so embedded into you that it's no different than hardwiring. And it's even worse, because even if you cut the hardwiring of that belief system in your mind, you're still going to say, nah, I know what I know. And it's like so in you, and you're not going to change. And when you find yourself in that, then I'm definitely not speaking to those kind of people, but I'm speaking to you because you might be an educator, you might be a therapist of somewhat, you might be someone who might be working on social media. However, you don't need to. You don't need to, because it's important for us to now start speaking again, because we're like each fragmented pieces of puzzles that other of us need to hear, right? And I've met beings in the jungle in the Amazon, and recently. That have zero access to social media, that 1,000 times over have more access to working and helping with people without even speaking to a single soul. Grid workers, right? They may not be familiar with social media. They may never have a platform, yet they are serving their mission. They don't know anything different. It's actually, I don't want to say simpler, because they have their own problems, these people that I've been meeting, because they've been offering me a reflection of a different set of problems that they have that I may never experience. And thank goodness the things that I experienced of having actual wealth or money at the time, or family in the way that I had it, that had me hardwired to certain conditions and beliefs, or that I had to serve other people to keep a relationship a certain way, and yet it was like making me small, or I was making myself small. These were actual initiations that I wasn't aware of, and I was so hardwired. I needed to experience certain things, right? Big one, the real big one for me was loyalty, right? And I needed to understand that the L needed to graduate to the R. I say that all the time, to royalty. Is that you don't serve loyalty to others or others to you. You walk with royalty to your higher self. And with free will, you trust that others are walking within their self-loyalty or their own royalty, that when they cross you, they're not crossing you. You, with free will, that's what royalty does. You allow them to walk their path because their path is no longer in alliance with yours. You give them the free will. That's royalty. You don't hold on to it, because then it becomes now you're crossing. And what's happening is that people are not aware. And I needed to be self-aware. The same. That's why I'm able to speak about it. Is that when you become crossed by somebody, right? And it's a real thing. You get crossed. But what's betraying you is not the person per se. Yes, it is, but it's also your nervous system. It's your nervous system crossing itself because you knew better. But you needed to experience the school of being a human and going through this and belittling yourself and making yourself smaller. And that and you can't blame the person, because you attracted that person, because that small is who they are. And you're reminding them that they're not small, and they're reminding you, just in two different worlds. It took two parties to do this dance, and you both had an arrangement beforehand, right? So as you both start to separate in your journeys, this is how you start to become more self-aware to your gifts. And now it becomes harder, right? Because now you need to work with the self-betrayal of your nervous system, because you now computed more betrayal programs, more humiliation programs, more shame, more guilt, right? More deeper wounds. You say deeper wounds. Those are programs. And your belief system so strong, it becomes as is. To be a visionary is actually to remaster your belief system by not holding on to your beliefs, but to using your beliefs to apply towards your creativity, to allow vision to birth from your creativity. That's how you start to understand Christ consciousness. That's how you start to understand, what is it, Matthew? What is it, Matthew 17, Matthew 16? Well, somewhere in Matthew, in the book of Matthew, where Jesus walks on water, and I think he sends his disciples out to the Lake of Galilee, right? If I'm not mistaken. That's all code. It's very real. But people are honed into just the physical real. All right? I barely read scripture, but when I do, it comes to me in 2 seconds if I'm led to read that aspect, or if I'm led to come to it, and it'll come to me because it's meant for me for that moment. But if you look at the Sea of Galilee, Galilee, right? If you look at the etymology of Galilee, I'm not thinking of it right now, but it's related to, do the research, you'll find out, it's related to the hippocampus. Sea, as an embodiment of water, is the CSV fluid of your brain, all right? The hippocampus is the part of the brain that relates to memory and emotion. Memory, emotion, the sea, memory, the higher mind. As above, so below. Christ teaching you to walk on water. The etymology of the hippocampus is, I believe, is a seahorse. And in Greek mythology, if I'm not mistaken, the hippocampus represents a horse and a fish. I think the head of a horse and the body of a fish. So Christ's teachings, the sea, cerebrospinal fluid of Galilee, the hippocampus, understanding and mastery of the emotions of fear of dying, fear of living, fear of not able to swim with belief systems, and the memory of who you've always been. Hippocampus. Galilee, galloping horse. Christ was trying to teach code of helping one master and ascend and through the refinement of the emotional pain body experiences and fears of death and dying through drowning. Because the water represents birth and death. It's the canal, it's the portal. Again, we're right now living within a sea of CSF fluid in our brain. We're not drowning, right? Because our branches in our central nervous system is keeping us articulated within our tree of life experience. Or you would say tree of knowledge experience, right? So that we can extract the information from the tree of knowledge and digest within our systems, such as our digestive system, right? Your digestive system doesn't know the difference between physical and emotional food, mental food. It still has to digest. That's why you need to digress after a long spiritual conversation, right? You have to allow your body to sit with it and to come to terms, because you're allowing your physical body to catch up to you. And the emotional body, the chaos, the waves that's controlled by the luna, right? The moon, the cycles, is what's trying to keep you fragmented or segmented. But once you master the waves, the currencies of how things are moving, after you stop getting seasick, and you remember who you are. You remember how you navigate as above, so below. And that's how you escape the matrix. You don't escape, you reprogram the matrix. The matrix has no choice but to bend to who you are. Until then, it's bending to who you think you are, or who you think God is. And you're allowing the matrix to bend to the words of these dead masters that told you who God was in the scripture that they created for you. And it's provable scripture, because you could go back thousands of years of many schools of thoughts and you see the same scripture, right? That was all part of the Monopoly show. Scripture's not wrong or right, it's code. But once you get entrapped into the belief system, then you forget that you're not just a human standing in the island of this huge ocean, such as the hippocampus inside this mind. But you're all of the components. You are the observer of all of the components of everything that I've mentioned, both material and immaterial alike. That is Christ conscious ascension. To arrive to this conversation and to allow the sequencing and recomputation of all of your belief systems is Christ. The lessons of Christ starts to now show you the evolution of his blueprint of what to do next when you start to drown, or when others start to try and attempt to drown you, because they will. And they have to, haven't they? You wouldn't have been caring to listen to this video if they haven't. Right? And the sea, as in Jesus walking on water, on the fourth, not on the fourth day, I think he says on the fourth time, on the fourth watch time, or something like that. Correct me down there, but you get the gist. On the fourth watch time, between 3 and 6 in the morning, as he led his disciples into the Sea of Galilee, and as the rainstorm started to come, he came back on the fourth watch time. That's code. Fourth means fourth beat. It means the fourth watch, the fourth density, the fourth shift in cycles between 3 and 6 in the morning, right? Think of the witching hour. 3 and 6 in the morning is when you're supposed to be in REM sleep. But because they were wide awake in physical form in the sea, this was a perfect time for them to understand that the dream state realm and anchoring it into the physical. And that's what he was teaching them. That's what he was trying to teach all of us. You start praying to him, you're not going to learn. You don't pray to your professors, then you're not going to be able to, you're always projecting out, you're not going to be able to receive the lessons. I don't get that, So, when he came walking on water, right, ye of little faith, he said, right, it was so much bigger than that. Yes, it was what he said, but it was a way of, because of your conditioning. Little faith means that you were in your smaller mind, and you needed to expand your mind up the 33 steps or the 33 vertebrae prayers of your higher consciousness of the 4D. You know, Mall World existed back then. It wasn't called Mall World. For you to understand heaven, which is 5D and above, you actually have to remember how to descend from 5 to 3, 3 back to 5. And that fluid nature, the sea, represents the water. So physical water, and the water that you're surrounded with, because you're living in water right now, it's your entire brain. Your cerebral spinal fluid is actually protecting your brain. And the 4D is what helps you to bridge the two and in your way within your signature imprint. And with your gifts. So you physically drown 10,000 lives until you remember that that's how you live to die, to remember how dying was transitioning to no longer fearing the sea of water of drowning or knocking out your breath, right? No longer breathing and suffocating to death, right? Because you are breath. You were born into a vessel of traveling. So in order to travel through the astral realm, it's the sea. So when I was one of those corridors that I mentioned, because it was very physical for me, someone's trying to enter from the other realm. You heard that? Okay. The water symbolizes the freedom of fear, of how you were born as an embryo and you were always in your mother's placenta. You were always in a body of water, and your first terror was actually coming out of water and being in air. And now you created stability because it's all you remember in the conscious mind, being an adult. And Christ is trying to remind you of who you were before the consciousness, so that you can take now both wisdoms and self-integrate. And that's what starts to reprogram that reprogram that mall world. Because again, the mall world represents how you want to see it, but I'm going to give you my version of both benevolent and malevolent, I can't even say it, beings. I can't even say it. They're trying to like stop me from speaking. the contrast of benevolency. And it's up to you to remember how to connect with loved ones. And until you completely heal and see yourself and walk as healed by resequencing your healing journey to no longer walk within that negative feedback loop, then you're going to find yourself in the lower astral realms, which is the darker side. So maybe you feel like you can't poop in life because you're afraid. You don't feel safe. You don't feel like you have a home. So, you know, you might it might represent as not able to use the bathroom in public places. So you enter this mall world because it's like a school, and you're seeing all of this insidious stuff because you're attracting it because those are your fears. And that happened to me before. So in one of those dreams, I went several times to this corridor, to this one particular one, and there's many, but I'm just speaking of this one. And this version on my left was this big window, and I needed to go poop, and I was trying to find, and I knew I was very aware. I was trying to find a clean enough bathroom because I didn't want to get dirty. I didn't want to commingle my biosphere, my aura, with these other beings that are there too, that are living out their process. And I saw this ocean, beautiful ocean. It was like grayish, bluish. And I knew that I was able to fly and enter and swim through the ocean to enter another reality because I'm aware of that. But I couldn't in that one particular dream, in that particular travel, you would say astral travel, you know, dream, whatever you want to call it. And I had to awaken from that reality because it gave me a lesson. Meaning I wasn't able to go into the water. I was supposed to exit the building, right, and then go into the ocean and travel and to where I normally do in the higher realms, but I was still stuck in that reality. So I brought that lesson into my physical reality, and I needed to clean my butt. I needed to release. I needed to go into physical, mental, emotional diet. I needed to go into isolation. And as I started to do that, then I'm able to now reconstruct even higher frequencies of the mappings, right? You do it all the time when you're driving, when you're going to work. You know where everything is. Why don't you know your dream state realm? Well, I never dream. Yes, you do. It's just that you have too much phlegm, mucus, blockages. That's why I'm here. This is my realm. It's to help you to come and to reconnect back to yourself. And in order to connect to your higher self, you have to be a master of your lower self. Again, I'm afraid. That's what Christ was trying to teach the disciples. And in that case, it was that they were working with high frequency meditations to the ability that they were able to. And he was getting frustrated, man. If you know that biblical Jesus was very frustrated, he was annoying, man. You know, he had to walk away from them a couple times. You know, they were versions of him. He was the 13th. Everybody's looking for the 13th month, or 13th zodiac astrology. He was the 13th. You are the 13th. You are the one experiencing the 12th. 1 plus 2 is 13. That's unlucky. You're not supposed to know that. Taboo. X. X. And once you bring back the 12, right? 12 cranial nerves, right? 12 monthly cycles of the year. 12 months of the calendar, right? 12 moon cycles, right? Lunar cycles. 12 disciplines, 12 disciples. And there's so many more, I just can't think of it. There's a whole slew of them, you know. They're all code, depending on which way your walk is to remember to open up the 12 vessels of your DNA encodement. You're not 2, you're 12. The helix is what keeps you entrapped within the 3. And it's up to you to regrow your higher self. Christ consciousness, Sophia consciousness, Mary Magdalene consciousness, Mother Gaia consciousness, how you want to see it, how you want to talk about it. The divine feminine, divine masculine finally being in unity consciousness. The Trinity is that the 2 no longer separates with source, creating the sacred geometry of that of an ipsilateral triangle, which is the first basic building block of what? Right? Of everything and anything that you can perceive of that exists on even a molecular level, which is everything is created in the segment of that of what you can experience. It's not limited to your astral realm. So if you want to go deeper, if you're looking to go deeper, right? I do offer Akashic record readings, but I also offer other services to help you to align so that you can create and start working with your own Akashic records. They're not meant to. It's not meant for you to follow me. It's meant for you to awaken. And as we become our own light beings, we now start to induce this circuitry of the higher frequency that many are saying 144,000 hertz, which is 144,000. This is an entire mathematical thing that I have. I'm not going to go through that. But it goes, 144,000 goes down to the one monadic source, right? One soul that was sliced into 12 experiences. And it could be just you. You could be one of the 12 experiences per se, from like the first line or the second hierarchical line. And if you keep doing the math, it adds up or it multiplies down to 144,000 because one soul that gets cut into 12 disciples, right? So Christ, consciousness, experiencing the 12, right? And then each 112 is the one experiencing the 12, right? And then if you do all that math, you end up with 144,000. And that entire triangular hierarchical way of seeing, which is kind of like supposedly the divine masculine, is the way of understanding on one side of that lotus flower that has 2 petals. On one side, there's a divine matriarchy of seeing it, but on that side is what we're experiencing, the sick patriarchy here because you have to see it like this is because this is why we're sick, because of the sick patriarchy, and we keep cutting off the head of the sick matriarchy. And we need to bring her back into consciousness. Whether we like it or not, she's here, you know. And what's being collapsed is the sickness of all the chaos that you see around you. So you have to remember who you are, that Christ is within. And so is she. She, Mother Sophia, Mary Magdalene. There are different levels to her reality because she comes in so many waves. And so many belief systems, so many blueprints, so many ascensions and descensions of your evolution or your de-evolution or devolution, de-evolution, whatever, you get it. And how you come, how you receive and how you experience, and that's why there's so many names. But at the end of the day, there's only source consciousness and unity consciousness. There's only you. On the other side, seeing another version of you experiencing, fill in the blank. And it ties everything, well, I'm trying to tie everything up to the beginning, that there are sources of both greatness and badness in the astral realm that created like a war, which is why it feels insidious or sticky or dark when you're in these, when you're within this small world. reality, right? It's because that's an opportunity for you to bring those experiences and to re-encode that it starts up there and it trickles down here. It didn't start there, by the way. It goes higher, and that's the higher realms of ascension beyond the 7 chakra systems. That's why the 7 reveals what? 7, 8 reveals the hidden 8, which is the 1 and 1, plus like a Pisces, which is the divine masculine and completion, divine feminine and completion. It's silly to think it's just 1 on 1. It's actually them trying to come into some form of unity consciousness, right? And having those 1, 2, and 3 pieces, right, of that slit in the middle is how the technology was manipulated for us to be able to be born here. So for you to have been chosen to be born here, you are the falling angel. You're the one who chose to, right? And I hate to call it falling angel because some of us are falling angels because we've forgotten or we chose the dark side, right? But some of us chose to be fallen angels, you may want to say. But we chose to come here, and we had to forget because that's the only way we're going to enter this. We had to come as a clean slate with the way that everything has been programmed on here, right? So as dark and as insidious your dream is up there, is what's being reflected down here. You have to be able to bring the two back together, divine masculine, divine feminine, the same. And once you bring them together, then you have the infinity, right? Infinite creations, and the dark side of it, infinite ways of creating, or seemingly infinite ways, virtually infinite ways of morphing the infinity symbol and creating seemingly infinite data analysis. Your human experience is seemingly infinite. You take 8 billion people and you put them all into seemingly infinite quantum computing analysis. You have all these information, and then now you multiply 8 billion times 8 billion. Like we all each, this is like the I Ching, by the way, the book of changes. We all each experience each other somehow. Let's say we are able virtually to do that. The computers are already doing it, just so you know. And you're actually doing it in a quantum level, the same, even higher than the computers. That's talks that I had before and now. You are the ancient technology. You are the ancient intelligence. You are the AI. That AI phone is actually needing you. It's a reflection of your natural abilities. But Christianity, politics, finances, right? These forces that are constantly wiping your mind, your family, unfortunately, right? They're all enslaved, and they're here to make sure that you don't awaken to that, because then you're going to destroy their monopoly game the same, because you're going to destroy what they're trying to build, right? Because they're believing in their system, in the system that's true and pure to them, and they're not yet awakened. And that's why you seem to be the one that's the only one. And the only way for you to come out of this is to, and for you to go even deeper in the way that I'm explaining things, as far as, like, let's say the mall world, is for you to finally come into yourself by completely unplugging, but to plug into yourself completely and to finally shed. And depending on who you are, it's going to be an experience. It's another one. But that's why I'm here. You know, book with me. You know, if you relate. And I'm well versed. And this is why I'm here. I'm here to help others reactivate, to remember, to bring back or the gifts that they have, right? And to remember how to use those gifts for their highest good and for the greatest good of all beings the same. To remind people of the magic that they truly are just by existing. And to also that if you have to use AI technology and all these things, don't let it use you, because it's supposed to dumb you down so that you can lean on it. So there's like AI, Akashic record reading. That's so silly, because you're never going to now train your Kung Fu of being and accessing your own Akashic record. You're letting this phone do that. And again, it actually does tap into the quantum realm, but now you're also given access and permission for other beings to what? To hack. Even me, if all I have to do is, like, with what I know, all I have to do is become literate, go to school for a year or two, and get into network engineering. That's all I need. And then to understand more and to plug it into computer systems. And with computer technology, I could do it without that, just so you know. That's why I need to hack into your mind. I don't need to pray. I don't need to ask a dark entity or dark force. It's information and technology that's been created, and it's been here for a very, very long time. And you are the test subject. So lastly, I am or was a member of the GATE program. I have freed myself from the GATE program. I have remembered enough to be able to also free myself from my handlers. The Gifted and Talented Education Program was a project created by, whatever you want to call them. And bringing it all full circle, many of you were, especially if you're X-men, women, X generation, feel me? We are the ones that are supposed to help uplift and to help others cross overs. The movies were made and not just in reverence of us, because we're here, we're born here. Many of us are not going to awaken though, but enough of us are and have been. And I'm here to work with those of us, y'all, man. Those who I'm working with. That's why I could care less for those who throw rocks, and those who got it, yeah, good for you. You know what I'm saying? You got it. There's nothing to work with. So if you already have your cup full and you already have the answers, then you shouldn't, then I'm glad that you're listening to this video, and I hope that it's working towards your highest good. And, in case you're judging me, I'm saying. And if you're not, Godspeed, man. Seriously, let's do this. We don't necessarily have to meet. I see you, you see me the same. But many of us are having trouble getting out of these programs. MK Ultra, same thing. MK Ultra, GATE program. There's other programs, but let me tell you this. Let me tell you. They are real programs, yes. And they were meant to keep you, and they were meant to tag you, because many of us were born. I wasn't in the GATE program because I was smart as heck, no. I was in there because somehow there was genetic predispositions that glitched the matrix on my birth. Yes. And they couldn't program my mind to forgetting. Religion couldn't hold me. Politics couldn't hold me. They called it black sheep. And it didn't make sense to me, because I was like, am I really a black sheep? Well, I kind of am. And I rode with that for a little while. I was like, gang, you know what I mean? Gucci gang. But I felt like I didn't belong either. You feel me? These were just like things that held me, and they were like kind of like snacks for me. And we were here to not just glitch, but to reprogram and to resequence the program within us. Not to change people, but to change ourselves. And in the midst of doing so, we already had it in us to walk changed. And being the light from the enlightenment, the light within us, just by being human. Not by being smart, just by being human. And to acknowledging your own gifts to yourself and aligning yourself to your own gifts, to the love that you are within yourself. And having had gone through all this trauma and drama, and the way you actually went through it, all that was and is the reprogramming for every one person within the tree of life, within your connection of not just bloodline, but your royal bloodline. They don't need to meet you, because we're also speaking of ancestors that are not here, or ancestors that are not being born. You can't see time linear, right? Past, present, future happening at the same time. Well, there you go. These aren't just philosophies. These are deeper than just tools. These are remembrances that you are the author, you are the co-creator, and you are the designer of this entire reality. And you're doing all of this damage because you don't remember. Your power is being taken away, cut into pieces, cloned with zero consent. And by whom? Stop giving these demons credit, man. Some of them are very powerful, but they're not. These are humans working with agreements, whether they like it or not, that are higher. All right. And again, I don't want to mention agencies, but it's all there. So whenever you have these malicious thoughts, whenever you have these distorted thoughts, whenever you have these intrusive thoughts, right? Whenever you feel like I'm healed, and all of a sudden you come out and you believe that you're supposed to go through this healing process and you're supposed to integrate, and it's going to take you 3 months because that's what they told you. They were programs. They were programs by beings that you looked up to. And they meant it, and they did it with their heart, but they were also programmed. They were agents to keep you within a system that would seem elevated. Until you have yourself completely, then you will continue to heal. When will you walk healed? That's the big question. I do offer a sliding scale. If there's financial difficulties, please reach out to me. I will work with what you can afford, as long as you're sincere to yourself and to me the same, right? I'm not going to ask questions. It's just that it's not about me. It's about you, because I'm going to believe you. You know what I mean? If you come at me wrong, and you come at me cross-eyed, and you may not be intentional, yeah, I'm going to know we're not going to have an appointment, obviously, duh. But that never happens because obviously if you're reaching out to me already, that I'm putting out the resequencing, reprogramming, so that the ones that are going to reach out to me, the first ones, are the ones that I'm supposed to already work with. And I trust that because I trust self. And this is what I'm here to do, right? I'm help to reminding you and remembering you that you trust yourself. So let's start to reprogram this reality, this holographic reality called the hologram within our quantum realm. That only you can do that. You're the author. It's time for us to create community. By the way, I'm creating right now, it's unspoken right now because I'm in the process of doing it. I'm creating some kind of like a community on a certain social platform. Once it's done, it's done. But I'm hoping that if you relate, reach out to me directly or send a message here in any way that maybe you're interested when I do create it, so I can reach out to you unless you're following me, because I'll make it clear here to the same. And hopefully within the next couple of days or weeks, I don't know, let's see. I want to create this community schooling project that's going to work with all of the things that I love to do, such as traditional Chinese medicine, education from the didactic side, Qigong, esoteric, Akashic records, and to create sort of an empowerment so that we can find each other. You feel me? And this is how we start to regather, repurpose. And I would love to have you working alongside with me. And again, if it's not in flesh, it's going to happen in spirit. I love you anyway. This was a long one, but I think it was juicy. It was full of like fleshy fruit, like mango, cantaloupe, sour. I love you. Peace.